Hey there, it's 91 Talk, and you're watching a review slash discussion of Christopher Nolan's film Oppenheimer, which was adapted from the book American Prometheus by Kuiper and Martin J. Sherwood. Now, Oppenheimer, I've seen it twice on IMAX 70mm, and I loved it. I think it's one of the best films of the year, if not the best film of the year, and it's clearly a film that Christopher Nolan has been working on for nearly 2 decades. He's been planning this for a long time, and you can see how the evolution of how Oppenheimer was created and conceived all the way from films like Interstellar and Tenet, which basically because Interstellar was about Kip Thorne's theories about interstellar travel, and which was clearly inspired from the theory of relativity, which is featured in the film, alongside Tenet having referenced Robert Oppenheimer. Now, to start with, I'm kind of meh on Christopher Nolan. I like his films, yet I don't hate him like some of the more dogmatic people in like film Twitter have. I see Nolan as a guy who's clearly influenced by Kubrick, Scorsese, and Michael Mann to create what's basically the epic cinematic equivalent of those kinds of films. And of course, the likes of William Friedkin and Alfred Hitchcock, and also a lot of French New Wave directors, was also a major influence on Christopher Nolan as well. And when you look at the evolution of his work, and you look at his Batman films, and you look at Dunkirk, and you know that what he's going to do, and that can be divisive for many people. However, I do have a soft spot for it. I don't see him as a god of filmmaking, unlike some people. Yet I do have respect for his craft, and Oppenheimer has made me admire Nolan more as the director, not only as one on par with Kubrick and also Spielberg, but what he did reminds me a lot of the good old days of 90s to early 2000s autobiographical cinema. You know those films that Robert Zemeckis used to do, and Oliver Stone as well, and the stuff that Spielberg also did. Like, this has a lot of Lincoln vibes within, but it's also a bit more grand. You can see the huge inspirations of Barry Lyndon and Amadeus in it. Overall, the film is a masterpiece that will resonate with me because there will always be a film that will make someone think or influence how they feel about life and how they think politically or the philosophy or the perspective. And Oppenheimer is basically that for me. One thing I'll say is that Oppenheimer is an excellent narrative about nuclear weapons, but not through the eyes of the US military machine, the Nazis, Russia, China, but through the eyes of the individuals who created it. Robert J. Oppenheimer is one of the most fascinating individuals in American history, and he remains a polarizing figure even though he helped America win the war. However, his associations with the Communist Party and other leftist causes, such as supporting the Republicans in the Spanish Civil War, clearly divided opinion among him even while he was still alive, even after America won the war. And as a result, he needed to balance his loyalty to the military, to the US government, and his family associations with communists. Is why people tried to bring him down. We may discuss the casting here, for one, in regards to that. So I believe that Cillian Murphy, who is great, he will be nominated for an Oscar, and especially Robert Downey Jr. as well, in his third Oscar nomination. It's nice to watch Robert Downey Jr. play a role this Machiavellian as Louis Strauss. There's also a number of huge cast as well. There are like 4 Nickelodeon stars in it, including Josh Peck and Audrey, aka Van Bostic. And thus, there's a lot of fascinating castings for me. As someone who is aware with how the media portrays nuclear war and nuclear catastrophe, as well as what I refer to as nuclear fascism, Oppenheimer is the highest level of filmmaking you can get for a film about nuclear weapons and nuclear war and nuclear winter and stuff like that. Previously, we had films like Threats in 1984, the BBC TV film that shocked pretty much the entire world and was one of the most powerful anti-war and anti-nuclear films ever made. Oppenheimer is without a doubt the most powerful nuclear war film ever made. Especially since it's an IMAX release on 70mm, directed by one of the most popular film directors in the world right now, with an amazing cast that includes 4 Oscar winners. So there's a lot to discuss here, and I'll say it'll take a while for another director to tackle a similar subject. So absolutely, there's a lot more people talking about Oppenheimer, and it will be a long time before another director tries to handle nuclear weapons and nuclear war discourse on the same level that Oppenheimer does in terms of budget, storytelling, and yeah. I don't think people will stop creating films on the man project Oppenheimer, because the man because the man is too important to nuclear history to not be talked about. I expect that further films will be created regarding the Manhattan Project and how and why the Trinity test was built, and possibly a film about the Hiroshima and Nagasaki nuclear bombs will be made as a result of this film, and because of Oppenheimer, did not portray the bombs, the attacks on two cities. There will be a director who will make a film about Hiroshima and Nagasaki in response to Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is one of a kind film that may not be able to have, that may not be able to. I don't know how to say this, but yeah, Nolan has stated that he is preparing something after the SAG after what WGA strikes are over, but I don't think it will be as epic as what we saw in Oppenheimer. And returning to the film's politics, it is fascinating to see the discourse around the political ideologies of the film, such as, especially when you have Ben Shapiro calling it a great conservative and anti-woke film, which I don't understand because the film is clearly sympathetic to Oppenheimer's communist sympathies and simply sympathetic to his union causes and his left-wing politics in general. And there are scenes where Oppenheimer tried to unionize his own faculty. You find me a movie that's about unionizing workers' rights on IMAX of all places. I believe the last time we had that something that good was, well, Sorry to Bother You. So seeing a large budget IMAX feature talk about unionization and workers' rights is huge, and thus the movie's politics can be polarizing if you're not on the left. I mean, there's been a lot of discussion on Twitter regarding how much of a person like Oppenheimer, who has known communist tendencies and found members in the Communist Party, is ready to make a murder machine on behalf of the American empire. But when you think about it, if you look at all the big names in left-wing American politics, you see AOC or Bernie Sanders or Ilhan Omar increase funding for Ukraine or US intervention in countries like Somalia and Syria. It is not usual for a guy like Oppenheimer to exist, especially in relation to modern political movements of the moment. And I have stated it's remarkable that a film friendly to communism and labor organizing is showing on IMAX and is selling tickets worldwide. You know, it's one of the biggest, if not the biggest, IMAX showing for a non-3D film, an R-rated one of course. Christopher Nolan was able to film a courtroom drama on IMAX that grossed, as of 14th of August, $600 million. It will reach 1 billion or close to 1 billion by the end of the year, which is enormous, as I previously stated. The final hour of the film is essentially a courtroom drama on IMAX, which is fascinating. There are scenes where Oppenheimer and his wife Kitty, played by Emily Blunt, are interrogated, technically in a full courtroom setting by Roger Robb, played by Jason Clarke, as the head of the AEC Council, played by Tony Goldwyn. I'm not sure whether Jason Clarke will be nominated for Best Supporting Actor alongside RDJ, but why not, you know? Yeah, there are a lot of excellent castings as well, as with unusual roles, like James Urbaniak as Kurt Godel and Tom Conti, an actor I'm quite acquainted with since Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, portraying Miss Albert Einstein, and was perfect as Einstein. Yeah, and as I mentioned, there are 4 Oscar winners in the film, including Gary Oldman as President Truman, who is one of the most nasty yet realistic depictions of Truman out there. And you have also Rami Malek as Dr. David Hill, who is terrific in his short part. Now we're talking about the Oscar race, right? Emily Blunt is terrific, an absolute gem of the film, and I'll not be shocked if she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the Oscars. In response, and speaking of which, as part of the Barbenheimer experience, right? I saw Barbie first and then Oppenheimer on the same day, and I watched it with my buddy, and we had a fantastic time. But Oppenheimer is the one that truly resonated with me. I like Barbie, but Oppenheimer left me with an impression because I enjoyed this kinds of autobiographical flicks. Oliver still wanted to make a film Oppenheimer, but he didn't get to, you know? It's just a shame. I believe William Friedkin and Stanley Kubrick also wanted to make an Oppenheimer film based on one of the scripts pre-American Prometheus, but I believe Nolan has to make the best film about the Manhattan Project. J.R. Oppenheimer and his life and how McCarthyism affected his legacy, and it will be difficult for another filmmaker to make a film about a similar topic as good as Oppenheimer. Also, shout out to Florence Pugh as Jen Tatlock, and also Jack Wade as Robert Alicia Feynman, good roles. And it gets to the conspiracy angle a bit, showing that Nolan portrayed 2 very conspiratorial ideas, such as Jen Tatlock's death being portrayed as a possible murder by the FBI, and then as JFK mentioned in the film. At the end, it implies that Louis Strauss may have played a role in what happened to JFK later. And yeah, that's one thing I respect Nolan for. He didn't pull any punches, and I respect Nolan for giving lip service to the conspiracy angle of the film. So how do I conclude this video? By admitting that I want to watch Oppenheimer a third time. Yeah, I'm hoping that by the conclusion video, I'll be able to acquire another IMAX seat alongside instead of Blue Beetle. I'm hoping that the local cinemas here don't try and relocate the IMAX theaters away for Blue Beetle. But other than that, if you go see Oppenheimer, you should go watch it in IMAX. In 70 minutes. Yeah, it's one of the greatest films I've watched this year. Hopefully, Duke Part 2 will be just as good, but I know, unfortunately, it's been delayed to March 2024. Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. You can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/9oneToff. You can follow me on Twitter, where I'm active at twitter.com/9oneToff, and also on TikTok, tiktok.com/9oneToff. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend. Bye.